Hi Deepa,
Hi, Vinod.
how are you?
Good, good, doing good. You?
I'm okay. Busy bee.
Who? You?
You?
Me? Yes, of course. That's true. I'll not deny that.
Yeah, doesn't look like there was a lockdown pre and post for you, no? It's the same.
Why? Of course, there was this period, right? Because when they
Yeah,
brought down the lockdown, I think
yeah.
schools were the first to shut down.
Oh, but
March,
I
March
don't know. I just
6th or
somehow
7th.
still feel you've been very busy.
Yeah, with all the other things, going side by side, definitely yes.
And that brings us all to this week's episode. Uh, and Deepa, can you just tell us a little bit about what you're going to showcase this week?
Looking at Montessori, because that is something that I'm so passionate about.
Hmm.
And also, I think somewhere through you and through this medium, maybe giving a little bit more input about Montessori, also along with what is my interest. So that's what I'm looking at.
Awesome. And I know I've known you for almost 2 decades now. You were one of my first friends
Yeah.
in CKP. You've always spoken about it after you left college, but somehow me being me, there are some things that remains forever. It's like a powerhouse of memories. On the other side, things which probably I'm not too keen on. It just goes here and goes out. So I apologize for that. So I'm going to ask you all over again to start off with what is Montessori?
Okay. To many people, on general terms, it's another method of education.
Hmm.
Okay. If you note, I say method, I don't say system. Okay. Because when you look at system, it's very rigid. Whereas Montessori is not something that is very rigid.
Hmm.
It's something that it's a method of education which looks at every individual child for what he or she is. Okay,
Okay.
so we are not expecting the child to get into any framework,
Hmm.
okay? A framework that we make beforehand and keep. We are not looking at that. If you look at the
Okay.
system, or even if you can think of the schooling that we went through, it was a set pattern, a set system. You had to fall into that system. The system
Okay.
would not accommodate you. Okay,
Okay.
you have to get accommodated. Whereas
Okay.
Montessori is completely different. So, having said
Okay.
that, I think it's a method of education which looks at the child. I would be wrong if I say method of education also, Vinod, because it's mostly a social movement, because it's not just about education. There's a lot of other things that Montessori takes in. But the very well known and the wider aspect that is known of Montessori is the education part of it.
All
Okay.
right. Okay.
So it does look at psychology, it looks at the social rights of the children. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it looks at how we as adults have to change ourselves so that we can help the children. So that also is another aspect. It's not just about studies. Okay,
Okay.
so that is Montessori all about. And if you look at the studies, then it's doing something at the pace of the child.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
where we don't have homeworks, we don't have syllabus, we don't have curriculum, we don't have exams, we don't have assignments, we don't have worksheets. It's none of those.
Oh
It's
wow.
all hands on.
So okay, hold on everybody then. I'm just going to invent a time machine, come back as a student then. I would love schooling then. Now
Yes.
what do you do in this?
Two aspects. One, as a profession, yes, I'm into schools. Okay,
Okay.
so I do have a Montessori House of Children. That's how we call a Montessori preschool. And the other one is the full-fledged school, which is recognized under the Central Board of Education. That's the CBSE, and it goes on to grade 10. So these are the two aspects. Apart from that, with regard to Montessori, I am also into
Mm-hmm.
training of teachers. Okay, so I'm a trainer of trainers actually, and associated with the Indian Montessori Center. Okay,
Okay.
so we have
Okay.
training courses. We run
Okay.
training courses, and that that is the passionate side of mine, or my passion for Montessori on that side, where we can
Okay.
help adults. Okay, help teachers to
Okay.
understand children. And
Okay.
the other aspect would be, of course, a lot of consultancy for schools
Mm-hmm.
whenever they require help. Some who want to set up, some who are into the system and they want to convert to Montessori. Apart from that, yes, I do a lot of parenting for parents, They come up with a lot of questions, and sometimes we have some seminars, so we do parenting sessions. And I also make Montessori materials,
Okay.
which can be given to many schools take it, or parents take it sometimes because they want to do something with the children at home. So these are the
Okay.
other things that I do.
Okay. Can I be a little bold and ask you probably a pseudo controversial kind of a question a little later,
Yeah,
if you
sure.
allow me? Okay, I'll
Go
I'll,
ahead.
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Okay.
And I wonder what it is now. Now I'm going to wonder what it is throughout the whole sequence now. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought let me just stir up the pot.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
so now I understand this. So this is a alternate uh, way of teaching,
It is not teaching. In Montessori, we always say that
imparting
we
knowledge,
never teach. Yeah.
imparting knowledge, right?
Yeah, you guide the children. That's it. That's how we put it.
So apart from the regular stream of education systems, this is of course it's different. Are there more like this? I'm sure there are. I've heard a few.
Yes, there are. Little bit back, I would just like to take you. It's only in the 1800s, okay, that child education was actually looked at. Until then, I think children have always been an important part of any society, any civilization, human beings as such, right? I mean, if you look at people, parents doing so much working and everything, you ask them a simple question, for whom is it? They'll say for my children. Okay.
Right.
So it was only in 1800s, very strangely, that, child was given that much importance, though
Okay.
child was important in the life of human beings. So we see a lot of movement in education coming up from the 1800s. And so from there, we have certain methods, and all these were contemporaries to Montessori. We have the kindergarten method, what they call as the KG system, LKG, UKG. Okay, so the kindergarten. Then we have one called as the Emilio Reggio method. Okay,
Correct. I've heard this.
yes. And then we
Yeah.
have another one called as the Waldorf.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so these are the others which go parallel, and then there are many others which don't really have a name like a method, but it's based on the founders like John Dewey. Okay, he was one of the educationists. So there is a method that they have based on his teachings. They don't have a
Okay.
name for the method, but they follow some of the elements of his.
Okay.
So, and then of course you have if you look at the traditional aspect, you have the Gurukul system that we talk
Yeah,
about.
I was just gonna come to that,
Yeah.
and I'm sure our system is a lot more older than must be like just like with Greeks and Egyptians. Ours is as
Yes.
old, if not older.
Yeah.
Why isn't that popular? Have you ever looked at that? And
Yes, yes, yeah. See, we have one as the traditional system, one we have the conventional system, and the other one we call as Gurukul system. Traditional system is where a father teaches a child. Like suppose if you are a farmer,
okay,
then your son is going to be a farmer. He doesn't go to school to learn that. The father teaches. So it can be the same for a goldsmith. It can be the same for a barber. Any professions that you take. The other aspect being the Gurukul. So these two were the ones that were running, almost. I think it all changed with the advent of the Mughals. That's where the whole thing started changing, right?
hmm,
And also with many of these so-called books, we didn't have in the Gurukul method. We never had books. First of all, it was Shruti. Okay, so the guru speaks or says something, and the student has to take it in, and
right,
and he has to do everything. They stay with the guru, so you have to cook, you have to go get the firewood,
yeah,
and
yeah,
everything. So you learn.
yeah,
Education was not at all divided. There was no compartmentalization of
yeah,
education.
yeah.
You had to learn everything, whether it is cooking or whether it was sweeping the floor, or it was something to do with science or
That's so nice, isn't it? That kind of keeps you grounded. Your ego is
yes.
let out, but at the same time, there were so many things that were being taught. Like, say, for example, weapon system to philosophy to physics and algebra, cooking, a little
Yeah.
bit of yoga, Ayurveda, medicine, all of that. I think that's such a nice,
Yes.
wholesome system.
Yeah, it
Uh,
changed. I think with the advent of the Mughals coming in and then the Britishers, I think
Industrial
everything
revolution.
has changed for that matter, not just
Yeah,
education, right? Even the
yeah,
way of living. took a different turn. So I think people, it was much easier for them to think of education something that you just learn something and you're done with it and you come back, rather
Right.
than spending like let's say 8 9 years away from family being there. So
Hmm.
that might have been one of the reasons. Of
And
course,
this
there are
is a
many.
very interesting subject, and this is a very wholesome and a very passionate thing that one does. Teachers are hardly looked upon much
You know,
in our society, and it's such an important. Apart from being your parents, being your first gurus and your first teachers, it's your teachers actually who you spend a lot more time with, and the grooming, real grooming, happens there. How did you start off? Was it a lack of something that you saw, or you always were keen being a teacher? You always
I
looked at it
I
that way.
never knew what I wanted to do, right from entering CKP or into Montessori or into this profession that I am in. I never had a plan. Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, I completed my degree in CKP, of course. And then I had the same question that I had when I was in grade 10, what next? Okay. And then I was like, okay, since I had no other option, I had got no other answer. I said, so let me just do MFA now, just for going into something. Because I,
Okay.
I didn't even know if I would want to start something on my own or should I. And we were into graphic art. So it was completely
Right.
different. It was not even the
Right.
advertising where I could go and get work kind of a thing, right? And so that was it. So just for the sake of not knowing what to do, I entered into my MFA. And what happened there was at the same time, sometime then, my mom asked me, there is this course going on, some Montessori course. So would you like to go? So at that point of time, we already had a school. Okay, my
Right.
grandparents were running a free school for girls. It's like a Gurukul system. Okay, so we were so I was like thinking maybe that is an option. I used to teach them music sometimes, like harmonium or tabla, that kind of a thing, and
You
I
used to
was
play
into it.
tabla, isn't it? You were
I
into
used
music.
to. I used to. Okay, so I
So
used to
you
do
had.
that.
So you also were a vocalist.
Not really, no. It was
No.
more of harmonium and a little bit of sitar and tabla.
Oh, okay.
That is what it was. And so I used to go to the school and I used to teach English there also. Okay. And so I said, okay, why not? Anyway, I've been doing this, so why not just go and see what it is? And I got into Montessori. And it
Hmm.
was really interesting because it was unlike any other, way of, even the whole training program was such that, you really feel like, it's going at your pace. Okay. And you get to learn so much. And
Yeah.
we are revisiting the basics, but we were never told what it was. Just to give you an example, when you say plus into minus is minus, we know it by heart, right? But you don't know the reason behind why it is so. And so here we were getting all those basics. So it was really wonderful. So I said, okay, I went into it. And since I was doing my MFA, I think at that time we had Chudamani, who was the principal. And I had to go to her and say that, I'm doing the other training.
Chudamani ma'am was principal for MFA.
MFA, yeah, because I
Okay.
had to go to her and request permission because this course would start every day at around 2 o'clock, and 1 or 2 days it would be at 12 o'clock, and I needed permission from her to leave college so that my attendance doesn't affect her. She was very nice. She heard me out, and then she asked me, "What are you doing here?" Okay, and of course I cannot tell her that I had nothing to do, so I joined this. So I said, "I don't know. This just came across, so I need permission." Very, very surprisingly, she did give the permission and she said, fine, all right. And so that's how it all began. Okay, so I started attending these classes. But for my luck, both the examinations, that of my MFA first year, as well as my Montessori exams, came on the same day. And
Serves
now
you
I
right.
had to and now I had to choose. Okay, and I had no clue what to do. And then I said, okay, I took up a decision, and parallelly my dad had already asked me, how about starting a school? And so I said, okay, keeping that in mind, I said, right, let me just look at this. And so I let go of my MFA and I went and attended my Montessori exams, and then that's how I entered into Montessori. And that was the first level of training that we have. And post that is when I did my next level of advanced level of training also. And I started the school. The first one was the Montessori house, And after I did my advanced, I started off with the advanced version of it. That's the other school.
Okay, where do all these courses happen? In Bangalore, or you had to go somewhere?
Yeah, the basic courses was in Bangalore itself, okay, and then I didn't go anywhere, but then I did few online also, right?
Okay.
And
And typically, how long are these courses?
the basic one is for around 10 months, all
Okay.
right. It's a diploma course, by the way, right?
Okay.
And the second one, which is advanced, is for around 13 months, so 1 year, 1 month.
Okay.
That's all it is. And the other
Okay.
ones that I did abroad, they were all for like, it depends. Some of them were 1 year, some of them were 6 months.
Okay.
So basically, I have taken right from from infant Montessori, because Montessori doesn't start at 2.5. Montessori starts right from the day a child is born, actually. Even
Okay.
it goes even much earlier. The minute a mother knows that she's conceived, I mean, a lady knows she's conceived, she can
Okay.
look at Montessori and Montessori way of,
Okay.
going through the whole process, right?
Okay.
And it goes up to university. We don't have that in India, okay?
Uh-huh.
Right now we have till 18 years in India.
And Montessori is from which country?
Italy?
Italy.
Yeah. So she's the Dr. Maria Montessori. She's the founder of the method.
Okay.
She's the first lady doctor of Italy.
Okay.
Okay, and she never looked at it as she never wanted to make it as a method or an education method. She was just studying children, and somehow she looked at this whole thing, that the way, the word idiot, we use so commonly. It's that was the term that comes from what you call special children in those days.
Okay.
Okay, the special children in those days were called as idiots. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and so she started looking at what was wrong with these children.
Sounds
Why are
sounds so wrong now, no, Cecily?
Yes, it is. And when we realized that, when we heard that first, we were like, and we have just been using it, left, right, and center in our lives.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but anyway, they were called so, and she took up the challenge of helping them out. And so there was this examination that was held with the then minister and these so-called children who were specially abled. That's how I put it. Okay, and the regular normal children. And what happened was that these children who had these difficulties, they excelled. But the regular normal children, they were not able to pass the exams. It was the
I mean,
other way.
what kind of children were they? Were they autistic? Were they
Yeah, it was a mix. They
mentally
were
challenged?
autistic, they were dyslexic, all of that, mentally challenged. But then the
Okay.
regular normal children were not able to do it. And that
Okay.
struck her. And she said, what was
Okay.
wrong? I know that these children have a problem. That's fine. But these children are very good. What's wrong with them? And then she started looking at the system of education then. And you won't believe it. We are still following the same, where you have, chairs, I mean, rather benches. You have, there are like 40 minutes per period, and then there's a teacher giving you the instruction. You still have to ask her if you want to go to the toilet, or you want to use the washroom. You still have to take permissions.
A
There
kind
is
of a
no
controlled
freedom.
environment, isn't it?
Completely controlled, and you're sitting like that right from morning 9 a.m., let me assume, up to maybe 3, okay, with
Yeah.
just some small breaks. And
Yeah.
especially with the elementary children, that's of age group of 6 to 12, and that age, they have a lot of energy. How do you contain them and make them sit there, right?
Yeah.
So it's just not it just not matched with the psychology of the children. So that's
Yeah.
how she looked into all of that. And then she was opposed by Mussolini, and she was sent out of Italy. And that was when she came into India. Okay. And in India, the World War II was on at that point of time. And the Britishers thought that she was a spy. And so they house arrested her. She was house arrested in Kodaikanal. Okay, in
This is not become a interview anymore, or talk show. It's become
it's
more
like
like
a
a
story.
storytelling. Please go on. I'm loving it.
No, but anyway, I'll just tell you, because I mean it's very interesting.
No, no, it's interesting. It is
It is.
interesting.
It is. Okay, and but her life before that was even much more interesting. I'm not entering into all of that.
I'm gonna
Uh,
look up. I'm gonna read about it.
Please read about it, because she was the only girl in all male a college, medicine college, and the way she got in and the way she stood out. She was her dad opposed her, the people around opposed her, but it's a beautiful story of hers actually. Okay, so she was house arrested here in India, and that is when she started giving the lectures. She started talking
Right.
about the child over here, and she had her son with her. See, she would talk only in Italian. She didn't know English either. So he
Okay.
would translate it into English, and somebody else would translate it into Tamil because it was in Kodai. Okay,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's how the whole and the IMC, the training course that I am associated with. We calculate our classes right from her first class in India because when
Sorry,
she
come again. I didn't get that.
calculate our training courses, the number of our training courses,
Uh-huh.
okay, how many training courses we have passed on, we
Okay.
calculate hers, that number as the first number, and from there we take it, to whatever.
Okay.
Presently, we are somewhere on the 95th training course or something like that,
Okay.
So we take it from there because she left a representative here in India once she left India. Okay. So, and then she was not, she went back to Italy after a very, very long time. And she got the citizenship of many other countries around the world, actually. But it's very funny that she came from Italy,
Yeah.
but her own country disowned her because Mussolini wanted her to train children because it was a world war. So they were fascists. So they wanted her to
Mm.
train them and she refused. So that's
Mm.
how this.
Mm. Mm. All the story is amazing, Deepa, but that reminds me, you have to go back and do your MFA degree.
I have no hopes of going back there. You started the interview right by saying I'm very busy. I cannot get back there. Not at all. I found, maybe I should say, I was lucky enough to find what I was passionate about because I didn't
Yeah.
know. Even coming into CKP also, I painted some pots and showed it to them, and they were like, lovely, lovely, and they called me in there. Okay, so I do not know what they saw in that they got, but anyway, that's how my story starts. But anyway, that's how
But
it
it's an
was.
interesting journey we all have, no? And life takes us in different places, and probably sometimes it also puts us in a path that we never defined to ourselves, even way back in CKP. It's just lovely how life turns out to be, and there's a different calling that you have.
Yeah,
Uh, you're so right when you're saying stuff like this because I've always been a very imaginative person or an outstanding student, half the time punished and made to stand outside because I was always thinking visually. I was always thinking and sketching visually, even if I didn't have probably the hand for it. I would, for example, say, why has the world? I know I'm going to digress a little from the subject, but I think I would have benefited something like Montessori hugely because the teachers always caught me smiling, giggling to myself. I was having conversations with myself. I would have a concept. This is in fifth and sixth, saying, why does the world have to go according to a human being? Why can't it go according to how the lion wants it? Who are we to call a lion a lion? Maybe in its own language, it's called grr, grr, grr. Maybe the
yeah,
bird is called and probably
yeah,
they have another name for humans. But then everything is according to how a human looks at it. So I'm looking at this. I'm thinking of it. I'm making my own names for animals, and teachers are like, what's happening? You think monkey is laughing? I look like a fool or what? Why are you laughing? How am I supposed to tell her this concept? I would have been called a weird and thrown out or whatever, right? So this
absolutely.
was, I would have benefited because when you have that, I think
Yes,
all of us have this innate quality of being imaginative. We have just curbed away from it. And that I have learned from a person that I adored, loved him, from far, Sir Ken Robinson,
and
the number one talked, the most seen TED talk
yes,
ever. Fortunately, he passed away about a month and a half back
mm,
due to old age. And Sheetal had the opportunity to meet him, and
yes,
she put me on a call with him, and I didn't know it was Sir Ken Robinson, and I had the opportunity to talk to him. Uh, uh, I urge you all actually to go and go and see his TED talk about
I have, I
how
have
schools kill creativity.
creativity. Yeah,
It's a fantastic thing, and I think
yes,
all of us are childlike, a little bit of children in us, and we've just lost it.
yes.
Uh, Anyways, going
No,
back
you would have definitely
to
benefited with Montessori then.
yeah, I know, missed it out, which is why I'm saying all of you just wait. I'm going to save all of you. I'm just going to go back to studying. I'm going to invent the time machine, and all of us can go back being children. I can
Okay,
make COVID
Vinod.
go away. I can make
Yes,
COVID
that,
go
that
away.
that's the important one.
Yeah. Uh, Going back to CKP and your career path that you're on, it's not a career. You have a school that is your career. This is
Yes,
your passion, isn't it? So just to
absolutely.
know, I hope people are not saying, okay, we are trying to push a school here. No, that's not what the
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
is. Your profession is different from what your passion is here right now.
yeah.
Now, this passion got rekindled or got kindled much later or during CKP as we were finishing. Did any part of CKP help in your growth in
Yes.
Montessori? Does it come in handy when you teach your children?
Of course. More than children when I teach my trainees, Vinod. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, because we do have a lot of material making. We have a lot of drawings and things like that that we have to do with children. So it helps me in that. And I always felt that, though I don't think I was really good with any of the artworks. Very frankly, if you ask me to look at my own artwork, I would not even recommend you to look at it. Okay. But I guess with that many years of practice, with whatever sketching or whatever that we have done, there is an element of something you take with you, because I really believe that every person is artistic in some way or the other.
Yeah,
It may not be the
yeah,
same. You
yeah.
can't put it in any kind of a box. Okay, but
Right.
you have your own artistic ways or approach. Let me put it like that. Okay, so I think I always felt that there's one thing about I have this thing, where I look at something that I have benefited from, then I always think, I think something that came to me from my family, that you need to give it back.
Right.
Okay, it's not about giving it back to a person per se. Okay, it can be giving it back to some kind of in this case it is going to be art, let me say. Okay, it can be anything that you want to give back to. So I always had this thing that, okay, I have done my degree here, so there's something that I
Hmm.
have gained from it, maybe in my personality or maybe in my learning, whatever it is. So there's something that has to go back. In this case, I was like thinking that, art, if you look at it, right, I feel it's on a wrong pedestal.
Hmm.
Okay, wrong pedestal when it comes to children. If you
Okay.
actually go and look at the way art is being shown to the children, or even if you can go back to your own school days where you look at art, you will see that, it was what I remember is typically a art teacher coming in and saying, today the topic is going to be at the railway station. Okay,
Mm.
and you're busy trying to show a railway station. Okay, or you come back from a summer vacation and they say you try to draw what you did during the summer vacation. It was
Mm.
like that. Okay,
Mm.
there was no it was something that you can do, which is also an element of art, where you're depicting, somebody's giving you a topic and you're depicting, but there's much more to art than just that. So
Right.
with my work with the trainees here in the Montessori, though we don't have in Montessori, we do have a stream of art that we have looked into, but it's nothing very concrete. So what I have tried doing is, I think I have all the knowledge that I got, whether it was looking into that art history book, okay, or whether the painting or the basics of art, I think I have put in a chapter here at the training course where I offer it to the trainees. Okay, so that when they go back to the children, they are not doing the same thing that we experienced in school. But I feel
Mm.
it is there's it's really less what I'm talking about, right? There's so much more to do. I wish people look at it, because that's the right time when children are so imaginative, they are so
Yeah.
creative. Okay,
Yeah.
so you just have to lead them and they are able to do so much. Whatever you talk about in our thing, we talk about installation, we talk about painting, we talk about graphic. Children are good at it even better than what we think, or better than what
Yeah.
you and I would
Yeah.
probably do. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it is not reaching the children in the right manner. In fact, I was also thinking of having a group of people who could approach schools to say that we will show you how to deliver this bit of it, because frankly, in all the training courses, I've done my B.Ed also, and even in the B.Ed, we have not a word about art.
Mm.
There's nothing about music, there's nothing about dance, there's nothing about painting, nothing at all. we have a lot of talk about different subject areas and who invented how methodologies, a lot of this, but this is not there. So I think CKP, being in CKP is though my mother would say, you shouldn't have gone there, you should have done this earlier itself, because I changed in between. So then, but then I really think that there's a lot that I have taken from there, and I'm happy that I was able to, and I'm still doing it, where I can, the little bit of what I know, I can pass it on to my teachers and my trainees. And indirectly, I think that it's reaching out to many, many children out there because they are using it. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think we need to do a lot about it, actually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think this is another aspect artists should look at it, because they know it better. They will know
Yeah.
how to reach it out. It
Yeah.
it it does not need educationists, if you ask me.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's important, even as trainers or mentors and teachers, we ourselves are so limited with the knowledge of only a certain subject. I think when you
Yes.
cross train, as in training, even if you cross train your brain in different ways by exposure to different subjects and different norms of life, I think you must still be teaching chemistry and history and arts, whatever, right? But a little
Yes.
bit of the other thing kind of, slowly comes with it.
What you're
That mutation
saying.
is so important.
Yes, what you're saying matches with Montessori so much. I'll give you an example in the elementary level, that is the age
Oh,
group of 6 to
I knew
12.
Maria really well. We used to play when we were young.
Yeah, yeah, I know. She told me about you. I don't want to disclose that to others, what she told me of you. Okay. Okay, so if you look at that age group, right? We do a math problem, okay? And after we do a math, assume that the child is multiplying a 5-digit number with a 3-digit number, all right? And after he gets the answer and everything, we tell the children, decorate that problem, right?
Mm.
You do decorate it in any ways. You make a border for it, or you highlight it by some kind of a design or whatever it is. So it's somewhere we bring in even art along with mathematics or science or any other, and the child is free to do it. And it's not necessary that the child has to use a pencil. We sometimes say use color pencil and do the math problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So elements.
Okay.
So I remember a child using paints to do his math problem. And it was so
Okay.
amazing. These are things that we don't see otherwise. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
how a math problem is, right? You're all busy trying to solve it. If you know it, you're excited, you try to solve two, three others. If you don't know, you're fed up, you just copy from somebody and get done with it, right? But here
Mm-hmm.
it's put in a very, very different way, where
Mm.
what we call it as we integrate art with mathematics, something like that.
Uh, so, I mean, based on what you're saying, so Montessori is still a little. I mean, from when it was started, from that sense, it's an old school, right, isn't it?
Yes,
With
it
today's
is.
technology, with AR, VR, and now online classes and digital programs, people can actually, kind of get into a 3D mode and mold sculpture in a 3D.
Yes.
Because I think it's a very hands-on kind of knowledge imparting that's happening through Montessori, right? Does this help? Does it aid this new age
Yeah.
technologies? Do they aid, or
Yes,
are they
they
bad?
do. I think it's like this. I really feel if Montessori was still alive today, she would have definitely looked at putting this into the Montessori method also. Okay. Anything that goes with the psychology of the child
Hmm.
is most welcome. That's how I would put it. So it can be anything that is going to come in the future, or those that you have mentioned that has already come. If it
Okay.
goes along with the psychology of the child, I'll give
Okay.
you an example. A child of 6 to 12 should not be made to sit for long, okay? Because their legs, in a child below 6, the hands and the eyes are strengthening, all right? But for a child of 6 years and above, the legs begin to strengthen.
Okay.
Okay. And at that point of time, if you give him something, if you give him, let me say, a mobile or a computer, which is going to
Restrictive.
restrict his movement, she would have probably said a no. Okay. But you limit it with time. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
But the minute the child crosses 9 years, the child gets into abstract thinking. And at that
Hmm.
point of time, if you're going to introduce this, it doesn't matter. So she would have definitely welcomed it. So anything, any kind of invention, any kind of thing, because she always said that, the child is a part of us, right? And any
Hmm.
inventions that that as a human race bring out, the child has every right to learn it. Why do you stop him from learning it? He has the capacity to take it in. right? And
Yeah.
so therefore you bring it, but as adults we also have to monitor as to how you're going to offer it. You can't
All right.
neglect the the psychological aspects. So if you
Okay.
keep that in mind and bring it in, why not? I think there is a lot of scope for it.
Okay. Now the bold question that I was talking about, it's bold
Mm.
in some ways, and actually I don't mind asking it because I think so. Primarily, we work, or you rather, you're teaching people who teach
Teachers,
children, right?
trained teachers, yeah.
So you're training the trainers or teaching the teachers. Uh, is it important? Because I'm not married, I don't have a kid, and I never thought I'd be good with kids. I never thought. I've always been great with animals. But for some reason, off lately, I feel I'm really good with kids. Kids, I'm like a magnet. It's both ways. I think probably I still like being childlike and like to play. Obviously, I collect toys, all of that nonsense. But then uh, I can what do you say? I think they look at me as a piece of entertainment, and for me, they are. And
Okay.
we have strange conversations, and it's all fun. And maybe it's that fun part. Uh, but is it important as a mentor, as a teacher, to have a kid, to know a kid better?
No,
Because
I
this
don't
is
think
a
so.
this is a very late experience for me that
Yeah.
I thought I was never good with kids, but I seem to be good with kids.
Yeah, I personally don't think so, Vinod. I don't think that you need to have a child, a biological child. Yes, for all the other reasons, I want to have a child and your family and all that is one aspect. But if it comes to, I mean, I have seen people with their own children, they don't know how to behave with children. Okay, and the best times
I'll,
are
I'll,
now
I'll,
that
I'll
I'm
I'll tell you
seeing
why
it.
I'm asking this. I've always told myself as a kid, I'm never going to be like that adult. Whether it was an uncle or my own parents or a teacher, like
Yeah.
when I grow up, I'm going to be a different adult. And I've seen the same ethos, from, everybody had the same kind of thinking. A lot of my friends, and I actually am seeing them becoming what they didn't want to become.
Yeah.
So do we lose that
That's
in some ways?
because,
I'm
Vinod,
generalizing here. I'm not saying everybody is
yes,
the same.
I understand. I will put it like this, Vinod. See if it reaches out, right? You want to become a doctor, you want to become an engineer, you have a course. Okay? You go through a course, you struggle, you work hard, you do a lot of practicals, you do theory, and you do so many things. All right?
Hmm.
And if you look at the world, how many doctors do we have? What's the percentage of doctors that we have? Let's give it a wide range and say, let's say 20% of the world is, of course not, but let's just, or forget even you say 10%, all right, of the world we have that many doctors, let me assume. How
Hmm.
many percentage of humans on earth are parents?
A lot.
Much more, right? You
60%,
would,
70%.
it can be more, right? It can definitely be more. Maybe you can say 10% are not parents or 15% are not parents. I'm not talking about the youngsters. I'm talking about the
Adults.
those who are
Adults.
married, right? And you go ahead to have a family, but you still don't know anything about the child. You just go and do it, right? And that is where it hits because, and you treat the child the way you were treated because you feel that that is the way you bring up a child. You have not bothered to even look, even if you let's say you decide to have a child, then it is very important for you to first understand what you're getting into. This may sound very like, who's going to sit, who has the time for it, kind of a thing. But then it is important. You're not just bringing it's not like you're bringing a car home, okay, or you brought a new mobile. You're bringing a life into your life, okay. So you have to know how to take care of the child. You have to know about and children are not the same. They're not, I told you, it was only in 1800s that people looked at the child, and it's if you actually go back in history, it's only from 1800s you have pediatrics, you have separate commercials for children, products for children. Prior to that, it was not there.
Hmm.
Okay, to such an extent that even medicine, if a child has fever, okay, so if the adult takes, let me say, one full tablet, the child was given half of it.
Okay.
the same tablet. Okay, it's only post 1800s that you have different set of medicines for children where they realize.
Okay.
So we have taken children for granted. Okay, and as adults we have not bothered to understand the nature of the child. We have not bothered to understand the psychology of the child. The psychology of the child changes every 6 years, all
Mm-hmm.
right, because that's the way the child is growing. We don't
Mm-hmm.
know, and suddenly you have your child who's a teenager and you're all worried about how to take care of this child, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you have to know how to be with that child. So I think this is all happening because we are not understanding children. They
Mm-hmm.
are the ones who are least understood in our society. And though we say that everything that we do in our life is for our children, we say that, but
Yeah.
how much do we give it the equal importance, or look at it from that angle, is very less. So I'll give you another example. If you're going to paint your house, I don't know how many parents would go and ask the child, we are planning to paint the house. What color do you want your room to be? You'll be scared. What if the child says black? Okay, you're paint the whole thing black. How many of us really even take the opinion of our children? So we don't we have no knowledge about how to take care of children. It's like trial and error sometimes. Or since you don't know, you're going to listen to whatever is being told in the family. All right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying that even if you have made up your mind, I'm not going to be like that adult, you have no other way of changing yourself unless and until you do it consciously. Okay,
Right.
so when you don't know anything about the child, how do you expect? You will just repeat what how you were treated. You think that's the way you're supposed to treat, and so you land
Mm-hmm.
up treating the children like that. So
Okay.
that is what happens.
Can some philosophies of Montessori be used in an adult life? So it's a two-part question for a regular and adult life,
Yes.
and in some innate way, can we use some of those theories? Is it possible? Is there a possibility that we bring about that in an art field?
Hmm.
Will it work?
Of course, Vinod, it's not a possibility. That's how it is supposed to be, if you ask me.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
even as I said, if you want to work with children, right? We are with children so many times. I mean, throughout the day, we are with children. So, you have to know how to be with them. And you can't dawn on a face and say, this is how I'm going to be from 9 to 5, and later on I'll be a changed person. I'll get
Mm.
back to my skin. It doesn't happen.
Mm.
So in Montessori, we call it as a second nature. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we say that the second nature that you learn now, it has to become a part, it has to convert into your first nature. That's how we put it. Okay,
Okay.
so I'll give you an example for this. Let me say you're an adult who is drinking a glass of water, and you put the glass down, and you put the glass down with a noise. Okay, and it doesn't even affect you that you have made a noise, because that's how you've been putting it. But in the Montessori, we say that children also have to respect the inanimate objects, not just
Okay.
the animate, also the inanimate objects. It can be
Okay.
glass, it can be anything. And so we show the child how to put a glass down without making a noise. Okay, that this is one of the we don't call it a lesson, we call it as a presentation, that we show the child how it has to be done. Okay.
So you inculcate a different kind of sensitivity in people, in young
Yes,
children.
yes. Now this sensitivity, what that you're talking of, Vinod, if I show the child how to put the glass down now, but later on when I'm to myself and the child is watching me and I just put the glass down with a bang, it's
Right.
all gone. So that what I showed the child is that I'm helping the child to be that way. That
Mm.
second nature, I have to make it my own first.
Mm.
So, as you asked, can these principles be put into our daily life? Everything, most of it can definitely be put into our daily lives. And it has to be like that. That is why, in our training courses also, we do not let the trainees interact with the children until you finish the course.
Okay.
Okay. Many of them ask us, in B.Ed, we are supposed to go and do the practice, when we are training ourselves. So we say that, unless and until you're perfect, unless and until you make it your second nature, unless and until you understand the child, don't go in front of the child and don't interact with the child. That's how we put it. So you have to in other words, you have to transform yourself first before you go to the child. So if it's a question of transformation, then all these principles that we talk about in the method, it has to be in you, whether it is respecting the child, or whether it is about giving the freedom. We talk about freedom of choice. Give the children the freedom of choice to work with. um, some of the lessons that we have to give the child. I don't say, today I am interested in giving you this lesson, come let me show you. In fact, it goes the other way around. We have a process, or we have a method where we give an invitation, Vinod. We invite the child. So I would go, if you're the child, I would go to you and say, as Vinod, I have a beautiful material with a lot of colors there, right? Do you think you would be interested in looking at those colors today? And if you tell me yes, I go ahead. And if you say a no, then I do not show you that now. I will probably try, inviting you in a different way much later. So
Okay.
the choice is with the child. So the freedom of choice. So these are some of the principles that we have in Montessori, and definitely you can use it. In fact, you can use it with the children at home also, right?
Hmm.
You don't have to be a teacher for it. You have to be sensitive to the children. That's all. Are you
All right.
sensitive enough to understand the need of the child? If you're able
Okay.
to do that much, that's about it. It doesn't
Okay.
take anything much. That's how.
So, 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 uh, so how long you been doing this? About 15 years now?
Uh, 2001 was my training,
Okay.
right?
And so these training that you do for other people, do you go, you travel, or you do online? How is it?
Now, of course, it's online, okay, with all the conditions that we have. But yes, I do travel. So there have been, we have a lot of these training programs that we do. So I have my center here, affiliated with the Indian Montessori Center. So we have a center here, the training course where they come
So
here.
when you say
That's
you have
one.
your center, you run the center.
I run the center, but it is under the auspices of IMC, the Indian
I
Montessori
am seeing.
Center. I'm the
Okay.
director for that training program.
How does one get to become a director?
You have to do your directorship. So for a directorship, you have to undergo, after you do your Montessori training, where you are training to be a teacher to work with
Hmm.
children. After that, you should work at least for a minimum of 3 years with the children, a minimum, okay? And post that, you have to enter into this directorship program. And unlike other courses, we know even in the directorship program, the choice is yours. How long do you want to do the course? You want to do the directorship for 7 years, then you can be with it. You want to finish it in 3 years. So it depends upon your consistency, your passion,
Your
and
capacity to do it also.
yeah, and it's about you more than me saying this is your deadline. If you don't do it by now, you cannot do the training. It's up to you. So if you want to take a whole life, go ahead with it. It's like that. So I
Tell
did
me
my
some.
directorship.
So let's say I come and take this training under you, and I'm trained, and then I start working with the kids. It so happens because all of us, and I'm just being very generic. Maybe I'm an idiot. That's why I asked this question. When I say idiot, I'm childlike. What I mean by that is, so I go and I've now got a certificate from you. Then I go and train because we are uh, however well trained we are. Sometimes some of that you train, not everything rests. Something slips away, right? How does one get, and in that slip, somebody's probably taken a slight deviation from the said course. How would a super trainer know that this trained person or you yourself might sometime deviate from the original code what Maria Montessori said? So how do you keep track of that?
We will, I don't think that we would deviate as much, okay? Because frankly, of all the methods, we know that we spoke about earlier also, Montessori is the only method that has a whole series of presentation given. All
Hmm.
right. The whole, maybe in a layman's term, I will call it as a curriculum, but we don't even call it as curriculum. Okay.
Understood.
Everything is given. Whereas if you see any other method, there is nothing given. Even if you go to Pondicherry, okay, they have a very different way of functioning, right? The Arvindo ashram there,
Right.
and
Right.
they have a very very different system. The
Hmm.
theory is given, but the practicals are not given at all anywhere. And we also have materials that have been designed by Montessori herself. Okay, so there is a
Okay.
set way of doing it. But having said that, that does not mean people don't digress. Okay, they do go away from the method. But even if you go away from that bit of what is being shown, whatever you're doing with the children, are you one respecting the child? Are
Mm.
you understanding the need of the child? Are you able to reach out to the child for what they want, not just at the intellectual level, but even otherwise? If you're able to do that, then you are still following the method, where even if you're not
Understood.
doing that, what I
Understood.
have given you, because
Understood.
that is the core of the method.
So
Okay?
there are some fundamental norms here. I wouldn't
Yes.
call it laws, but norms which
Yes.
they, so you cannot deviate more from that. I just wanted to know if there was some kind of a check. Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
No,
Because
we
that could happen
don't.
with anything. That could happen
Yeah.
with anything. It could happen with
Yeah. Anything.
arts
Yes.
and the science. It could any subject you can always,
Yes. I mean, it's
move away
important
from.
to know only then, only if you move away, only if you deviate. Like today, we have so many art forms, right? Because somebody decided to do something different. Otherwise, we would
Mm.
just be stuck with maybe painting or sculpture alone if we did not. And that is human nature to, to look beyond something. And that is
Right.
important. I think that's what keeps us going, and that's what we actually call as progress, you know.
All right. All right. All right. So I'm looking at some of your pictures, and some of them say elementary. Those. So are there different? What do
Yes,
you
well.
say? So what is
There are
elementary?
levels
And
in
is there
Montessori,
something else?
yes. Yes. So it's like this from if you are somebody who's looking at a child from the age group of 0 to 3, that's called as
Hmm.
infant Montessori. Okay.
Infant Montessori.
Infant Montessori. Okay. If you are a person who is working with children in any capacity, teacher, trainer, whatever, for the age group of 3 to 6, that's called as the
Hmm.
primary Montessori.
Hmm.
Okay. If you're somebody who's working with children from the age group of 6 years to 12 years, if you're
Hmm.
looking at Montessori from 6 years to 12 years, then that stage is called as elementary.
Okay.
Okay. And if you are looking at adolescent, the teenagers, right? That is something to do with 12 years to 18 years. Then that is called as Erdkinder.
Do we have that in India?
Yes, we have only three schools, three or two schools in India who are into it. We have one in Hyderabad and we have one
Hmm.
in Tamil Nadu. We did have one in Bangalore, but that got shut down. That was way long back. Okay, but yes, now people are. I think it's nice to see parents becoming so aware, and we never we as when I say we, as a person who's in charge of a school, running a school, we never had this idea of going beyond because we were happy with just doing the primary. But then when parents look at the progress that the children are making and they come back and say, you do whatever you want, but I don't want to put my child
Mm.
into regular schooling. And then,
Mm.
that's how elementary Montessori came into India, where parents, it's out of demand from parents that Montessori is
Right,
growing.
right, right.
Not because the so-called people in this field want to grow higher or look at it from a business point of view. That is, I think, the best thing that could happen to Montessori or any method of education, where it is from the demand coming from the parents because they could make out that difference. So those are
Mm.
the different levels. I think we are reaching, and in fact, maybe let me just add this, that the current NEP, National Education Policy, that the department has brought in, that the center has brought in, because the entire
Okay.
education is changing from 2023. Everything changes, right? You
Hmm.
have coding, you have robotics, you have everything into the curriculum, and they are mainstream. And this year they made art as an mainstream subject. Okay, it's as important as mathematics now. Last year they made sports as an main subject in the
Very
CBSE thing.
nice.
Okay,
Very
so
nice.
and this year it is art. So all teachers have to enter into art and see how you can bring in art. And you cannot have art as something like a stopgap. Okay, like you had science and then you had maths. Oh, poor thing, the child is going to, we can't have another heavy subject. So what do? Put art. Okay, put drawing there.
So tell
That's
me something. When all of this comes in, specialists, people who are scientists and mathematicians and people who are artists, uh, so do they also then come into your Montessori stream and teach their
Course,
subjects?
yes, yes. So if suppose I'm doing something about, let me say minerals, okay, or
Hmm.
I'm talking about the teeth. So I make it a point that I take the children there. All right.
Okay.
So they go to these places. We take appointments from them, or we have something called as outing Vinod. Even the teacher doesn't go. The child calls up and takes an appointment. The doctor says that I'm so and so, and I'm studying on the different types of teeth. I want to meet you. I want to see how you do things. So the children take the appointment and they go there, not because they're visiting a dentist for a procedure, but because they're going there so that they can understand. And sometimes we call them into our environments. We don't call it as classroom, we call it as environment. So we call them into our
Nice.
environments where they come and they interact with the children. And the amount of questions, in fact, after you did the program on lilies, I have told Hemant that to be ready, I'm going to be calling him to talk to children about the
Yeah.
difference
Yeah.
between lotus and the lilies. I spoke
Oh
to him,
wow.
but because of this COVID situation, we
COVID.
were not able to do it. But I think when the school reopens, so that's why I look at the program more intently to see whom I can catch so that they can come and
Oh,
interact with
nice.
us.
So basically,
And
I'm doing consultancy work for you.
yes, yes, I'll call you
इसके
too.
बारे में
You
बाद
can
में बात
you should
करेंगे.
interact.
I'll send you my account number.
Yes, you can. It's worth it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay.
It's interesting. And the closest thing to that I've come to any kind of alternate career path when I was still in I think even during CKP, I had no clue what I was going to do. Maybe only after ORIC I got to know. But in school, thanks to Times of India, are you there?
Mm.
You went on a
NIE,
freeze.
right?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, NIE. NIE was so interesting. You had magicians coming in, mathematicians,
Yes.
people who were puppeteers. And I looked at it and I was like, wow, so there is a career apart from just being a doctor, engineer,
Yeah.
what your 80s, 90s parents wanted. And how do you get to be that? But nobody had a solution for that. Unfortunately,
Yes.
the adults around, at least around me, had no clue. Study really well, and make sure you get marks and you go become
Yeah.
a engineer, doctor. That was a norm. But or even when I went back to national geography, I've always been a very visual person. So a lot of these amazing illustrations, infographics of say the volcano, and you have a cut-off section of the volcano, and it shows under the earth
Yeah.
what's happening with the molten lava, the core, and how it's coming up. I said, wow, so somebody's imagined this and actually drawn this, illustrated this, and given it to National Geography. So, wow, imagine having a career like that, and that's exactly what we're doing today.
Yeah.
But I came to this today out of sheer luck,
Yes.
and NIE was something great, and I think all of us in a lot of ways would have benefited in a massive way, in a mega way, if we had known about these things, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So, just like the example that you gave, I had children coming up to me one day and said that we are planning on designing a rocket. And this rocket
Wow.
is going to take off, and they give me the date and the time, and they say this is when we are going to take it off. And like any other adult, I look at them in a very skeptical way, and I said, "Okay, fine. You let me know. I will be there," kind of a thing. And then they said, we need few things for it." And then I said, "What?" And then they give me a whole list. Okay, so what they have done is they have literally
Research.
gone, researched, and they have pulled out. And I see all the. I said, even if I put my entire money into this, I will not be able to get it. Okay, and then they say, "Yes, we know that." And that is why we have alternates. Okay, and they made a rocket, all right,
Okay.
and they did the whole thing, and then they wanted to figure the motorings and how it is going to work. We had to call somebody. Luckily, one of the teacher, her husband is in HAL, and then I had to contact him, and then he contacted somebody, and we got somebody to come and talk to these children.
Nice.
And Vinod, for I think for one whole month, from the minute they came into
They went
the
and built that.
environment, they were at it. Okay, my teachers were panicking, were saying, "What are they doing? They're not doing anything of math." I'm like, "Leave it, it's okay, let them do," because there's so much of math involved when you're trying to figure
Yeah,
out
it is.
what I have to do.
Yeah,
There's so much of
yeah.
science in it, there's so much of
Physics.
art in it. Yeah, physics, you're designing. So why should it be through a theory that that's another thing. Teachers have, I need to deliver it, and then the child learns.
Yeah,
Children
yeah,
can learn
yeah.
by themselves. Okay, And then the day came, and then they were all ready. Okay. And of course it didn't take off. Okay. And something went wrong. And then they spent another 1 month figuring
Fixing
out
it.
what went wrong. Okay. So if you look at that, the way they are, they were not bothered. The disappointment was not there. They were disappointed for that moment that it didn't work. Okay.
That's how you learn also. Your first failures at that young age teaches you to overcome it.
Yes.
Whether you're successful or not, that's secondary, but then it
Yeah.
teaches you, it keeps you grounded also.
Exactly. And you know
Yeah.
what they did? They realized that the rocket is never going to take off because it needs all other things. But
Yeah.
they designed a motorboat with the
Oh,
same thing. Okay. And
okay.
then it ran, it worked.
You
Okay.
have something to show based on that, some
I
video,
don't have
pictures
that
you
here
could.
because all that is, I think, in the school, so we are shut because of that. Otherwise, I would have definitely shared it
No,
with
when
you.
you do share on Saturday, would you be able to share? It'll be interesting to see
I'll
if
try to
possible.
I'll try to pull it out. Let me see. I'll have to go and pull it out because we're not working now. I'll definitely try to do it. I don't have it here with me. And I mean things like this, and children are capable
Yeah.
of so many wonderful things.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had this, some of the teachers who came up and said, you say Montessori children are like, they're like so good. So they brought the question paper from the regular stream because in Montessori we don't have exams, and they gave it to these children, and the children answered it. Okay,
Hmm.
without I mean, how a regular stream goes, right? You do a lesson, and then you're given exercises to write it 100 times or whatever. Then you are given more sums, then you have worksheets, then you have revision, and all that. And here these children attempted it at the first go, and
Mm.
they gave the paper back to them, and those people corrected. So my children, they came back to me and said, why are they putting ticks around what I have done? Why, who are they to say whether it is right or
Oh,
wrong? Why are they marking on my paper? Because I have done the work. She should have taken my permission before marking it. Okay. And then we said, that's how it is. You wanted to do a test. So this is how a test is. So they were like, okay. And they never bothered about the marks, Vinod. Okay. They bothered about, I think, one or two places where they got a cross mark.
why it went wrong?
Why did it go wrong? Okay. And they spent that whole day figuring out where they went wrong, and we never interfered in their work. By the end of the day, the children come back and say, we now know where we went wrong. And then they work out that same thing and they show us and they say, this is the place where we went wrong. They never bothered about what their mark was, how much they got, and they were not happy about it. Nothing like that. There was, where they say it doesn't matter. You have a stable emotion where whether it is more or less, it doesn't matter. You take things the way it comes. They were at that level, and that was an eye opener to us. So as you said, if this kind of an education was there earlier, I think we all would have benefited. There would be no trial and error with our own professions that I think many adults, I think, are. I have seen this, where they come up to their age of 40 or something, and then they suddenly start doing what they love.
Yeah.
Because prior to
Yeah.
that, for all the other reasons, they are working, whether it's for family or for financials or whatever it is, right?
Mm.
So that way, I think I have been lucky in that sense that I got what I wanted quite early, the field,
Mm.
right? That's how. But if I can figure out, if I can pull out some photos or something, I'll send it to you. I'll send that. You can have a look at it.
I don't feel like asking any more questions. I just want you to just continue for some more time.
No, no, no. That's a very dangerous thing to say to a Montessorian, and especially a trainer. I
No,
can do a
no.
whole training course right here, right now.
See, I mean, we can go on and on.
Yes.
Can you
I
believe
don't
we've
think you
spent
want to
an hour
bore
talking
everybody now.
about it? We've
Yes.
spent an hour talking about it
Really?
already.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, at least the primary questions that I had to ask, and I think most people would have the same kind of questions I've tried to ask. And just like with everything else, with him and Lily, I mean, with most other subjects, even though it's very common to us, like sketching and painting and doodling, all of that, though we understand, but each time when you speak to a person, you understand a different way of looking at an art and how you approach the process, right? And the things that we've spoken about in these episodes, which has nothing to do with art and creativity, like running and biking and photography and flower arrangement and lilies and all of that. we have learned something else, and that's going to
Yes.
stay with us for a long time. It just to with all of these individuals, and I realize that they're so passionate about what they do, and you're another person that I've known for so long, and I know you very closely associated with Montessori and training and all of that. But then I don't think we were sat down,
Yeah.
face to face like this, and uh, spoken about everything in detail. I'm sure this it's a vast subject, like with anything else, and we can just go on and on. But for the sake of keeping it in a time capsule, you know, we've shortened it out to 1 hour now. We started with only 15 minutes. I thought 15
Yeah.
minutes के ऊपर कौन क्या बात करेगा? Then it became a half an hour thing program. It's a 45 minute. Now it's touching an hour and plus.
An hour. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to tell you this: the passion that you have about Montessori, about training, about teaching comes across so honest, and it's coming across. It just you're overwhelmed listening to somebody who's so passionate about it, and that kind of rubs off on a person when the person is hearing it. To me, it definitely did, and I hope you go a long way, and probably do something, establish Montessori probably in a bigger way for people who are at a later stage in life, because I think if Montessori's got some answers, those would be quite relevant for all of us at a very later stage in life also, because
Yes,
I think
Vinod, since you say that, Montessori works with Alzheimer patients. So we work even with Alzheimer's,
okay,
right? So it's entering even into the medicine and medical field also, where the same methodology is used with the
but
Alzheimer's
it's
patients
not so
and even cancer patients.
but it's not so prevalent in India, is it?
It's picking up now. It is picking up now. So you have
Yeah.
like in Chennai, we have one. I know one of the hospitals there where we have created a Montessori space for children who have been diagnosed with cancer, and it
Okay.
works so beautifully in terms of for whatever little amount of time that they have, right? And with Alzheimer patients, yes, there are many of these methodologies that we have in the Montessori that they're using because they have forgotten things, right? So they have to get back. And so we use these, they're using this method to help them to, remember something and get out of
Hmm.
it to a certain extent. So it is being done even to that age group.
Okay.
Since you mentioned
Wow.
it, so I just remembered.
Yeah. No, no, I'm happy that these kind of alternate eh, knowledge systems are coming into the foreground, and I wish more of this happens, because
Yeah.
industrial revolution happened 200 years back, and you're still following the same norms. It's time to
Yeah.
kind of sweep it all away, like Sir Ken Robinson says. We don't need a evolution now. We need a revolution of sorts.
Revolution. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you are at the forefront of that, and being a proud Bangalorean, and I hope you do something, and I wish you all the luck in this, and
Thank
uh,
you, Vinod.
and probably the next time I probably sit with you like this and talk, I'll get to know a little more about Montessori, because I'm interested. I have some vested interest for myself, because I want to learn. At the same time, if at this age
Then,
also,
Vinod, I will definitely invite you in one of our training programs, one of the class. Come over
oh, I'll be a very
and just
disruptive
sit
force.
there and you can sit there and look at us do the training.
Don't blame me if your Montessori goes kaput after that.
No, no, we are too strong for anybody to even touch the method like that. That's why it survived for more than 100 years now.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, you've known me. I'm a two-faced crook, so best of
Yeah,
luck to you then.
I know you, so I can handle you also. And probably you'll see another side of me at the training course. We are
maybe I'll
very different.
completely, maybe I'll completely change after the Deepa, and I'll sober down.
Not with one. Maybe I would just ask you to join the entire training program, get into the course, and then you leave it to us how we need to transform you. We'll
So
do
three
it.
things we found out. You
Hmm.
cheated by doing MFA and the other course at the same time. You didn't finish MFA. I'm doing free
Yes.
consultancy to you. All these episodes I'm doing, you're trying to, steal people. Third thing,
Yes.
you're kind of, poisoning my mind to become one of your What do I say?
What's wrong? The third one is like it's not just that I'm poisoning your mind. It's good. It's good. You're going to be a part of what you called as that revolution. You'll be a part of it.
You're hypnotizing me. See, look at that.
Come on, Vinod.
Anyway, it was fun. I think
It was a
I
little
really
more
thought this was going to be a
serious.
very. I know. I thought this was going to be a very serious and
Mm,
it is a serious subject, but then also it's
yes.
very light-hearted in a way because there's so much of goodness and positivity in it. And for me, that's my takeaway from all of this. And I definitely want to be associated. I know I've never told you this before, but in some ways, because when you impart, you learn.
Yes.
Which is why I didn't say I'm going to come and teach. I'm nobody to teach, but when you impart, you also pick up some nuances of other things
I
around you.
think I think we should not look at it as teaching. It's like as you said, you're just imparting knowledge. You're sharing at the end of it. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll definitely invite you for the training course, and even with the children, you'll see what it is.
Oh, I would love it. I would love to be around children. Let me know. I'm
Yes,
all game.
I'll do that. Let this whole situation die out, and then probably you can definitely come in. And you can help children with something, maybe art itself. And also, if since you're doing this and it's reaching out to all our friends, if we could do something with regard to art, when you look at art
Hmm.
for children, right? Because
Hmm.
see, we are all should I say professionals in whatever we are doing, okay?
Right.
And especially since we have another advantage because we have come out of an art college, okay?
Right.
Though I strongly believe that the college is just a part, the rest of it is what you do and what you put in. But it's not just about being artist and displaying our works and going on. I think it has to reach out to children, where we can impart this, as you said earlier, to children. So is there something that as artists community it can be done to bring art to that level to the children? For me, art started off only when I entered CKP, okay,
Hmm.
for me, right?
Hmm.
But for many of them, maybe they were into sketching or they were designing something, but it is not something that they got from the schools, right?
Right.
It is something that you did on your own probably. But can we even look at it? And this is where all education has failed, whether you're a B.Ed or a M.Ed, you cannot do it. It
Right.
needs a different set of people. So I think
Right.
I can see a lacuna there, when it comes
Hmm.
to the whole education. So I guess we should do something about it
I think
as
definitely
teachers.
we could do something, just like with what we did. I mean, the people who got exposed to NIE from Times of India. If I can
Mm,
take a leaf off that book, so there are all kind of arts, right? Why
yes.
limited to only visual arts? But as a whole, all of us have done visual art in some way, and what we've done is a foundation. Okay, those 5 years also, I would still call it as foundation because from there we have become UI UX. Then somebody's become a graphic designer.
Yeah,
Somebody's doing typography only.
correct.
Somebody's doing painting. Somebody's gone to graphic advertising. There are so many branches out of this itself. And
Yeah,
for
Vinod.
the untrained person who doesn't know about this part of the world, they can look at art not just, well, even my own parents, when they send me to kuch karega, painting karke, he'll sell. That's
Yeah,
all they knew. Now they
yes.
know, okay, he does something with computers, but there's so much to it. But the foundation was
Mm,
obviously visual arts, right? So I think if you look at each one of us, obviously all of us have been trained in our college, but then the streams that we've taken and gone, and
are
what we're
different.
doing at the end. Like today, I was talking to Yatish. Uh, he's a visual artist. Though we know him also for doing calligraphy. Sorry, what am I saying? Caricatures and portraits, and he was one of those already built artists when he came to us, right, in Rorik itself. But then all of these guys, Satish and Chandru Gopal, they want to different streams. In fact, I know a classmate of mine from painting. He's now a product design teacher in one of those reputed college in outskirts of Bangalore. I've always known him doing painting and sculpture, but then
Yeah.
art is very fluid. So if you
Yes.
bring about that aspect to children, saying art can be
Yes.
as fluid, these are
Yeah.
your fundamentals. Keeping that, you can do a lot more with it. That's
Yes.
what mutation of any idea happen. That it can be done, and it'll be wonderful to reach out to
But it
people.
has to be
Uh,
done. That's the whole point, right? It has to be brought down to the children. That's the That's where the lacuna
Just
is.
invite, just invite all kinds of people
Yeah, I mean
from
that's what I'm doing, but I'm also looking at it on a larger scale with other schools. It's not just about
oh,
my
okay,
school, right? Because
okay.
it's pathetic the way art is done in schools. I'll tell you that, because I know, because I'm into it, and sometimes I do feel bad about it, that I have come out from a art college, but then I've actually not done anything about it, even if you
Hmm.
look at it in that way. Yeah, but as you said, it's so fluid that
Shame on you,
it
Deepa.
can be. I agree.
I'm
am
kidding.
I am no, seriously. I feel that so many times. So I've always seen if we could get people, so invite people, and I do that sometimes, but then I think it has to be done in a larger way, maybe. And that's something that we I know, as Montessori again says, if you want to carry something into the future, you have to give it to the children. It will
Yeah,
not die with you.
yeah,
It will go forward.
yeah.
So it's something like this. So let's see.
Something similar like that. I heard once Sutradhar sir, sculpture department head, saying something like that, and that stays with me throughout my life. He said something to that tune. I would not want to get into the situation and why, but he said this, and that's so important. You can't
Yes.
keep that with you. The more you impart, it'll go, and
Yes.
it'll come
Yeah.
back to you in a different man. It'll manifest in a different way, and it'll come back at perhaps in a
Absolutely.
better way. Great, great. This is awesome, and I'm waiting for round two of this whenever that's going to happen. 2 years
Yes.
from now, 5 years from now. But
Okay.
uh, I'm up for it. Whenever you want me to come over, spend some time, I would
Yeah,
love to
yeah.
do it.
I'll definitely call you in.
Awesome, great. So Saturday, then all of you wait to hear a little more about what Deepa's got to say. You can interact with her, ask her what she's been doing what she's all these years. What she's spoken here probably is just a small capsule of what she's been doing for the last decade and a half. There's a lot more to it. I think we all have vested interest in our future, isn't it? Our future always seemed to be our children, and it's important to understand, and I encourage all of you to, if possible, based on what we just spoke, go and spend some time with these children in whichever schools that she's uh, uh, being part of, to understand what happens there. Perhaps we bring that into our lives a little bit, and perhaps we take it back to our children at our homes. uh, so great. Thanks, Deepa, for doing this.
Thank you,
I
Vinod. I
I know
enjoyed
I've
it.
been pushing you for some time, and just we were supposed to do this in the morning, and then I pushed it for the afternoon. I'm
No
sorry
problem
about
at
it,
all. No
but this
problem.
was fun, and this was a big eye opener for me, and perhaps one of my another favorite episode of mine. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Vinod. I enjoyed it too. Thank you so much.
Sure. Bye.
Bye. See you.
See ya.